I think the people that I get to work with day in, day out, the culture from the top down. We're a God-fearing, God-honoring company. He has blessed us, and to work in a place like that day in, day out is truly, I think, an exception in our country. That I wish we had more places like that.
Well, obviously, we build a community with this community, and everybody has been at these public meetings. We had a crowd last night, so I'd like to ask your indulgence. This has gone long. I would like to have any public comments, but I'd like to see if we can limit those to 3 minutes. If you ask me for more, I'll give you that. But if you could limit it to 2 minutes, to 2 minutes today. And if you need the 3 minutes, just tell me. But we hope that you could make a short speech and get your question out. Promise you that we'll follow up with anything that's not quite answered totally today. So would anybody like to make a public comment or ask a question? I think, okay, yes.
I thought I was going to be quiet. I'm Keith Graves, and I'm native Amarillo. And you guys can't toot your own horn. But I believe what you all have done is you have allowed these various organizations and board directors to do their homework. And with these gentlemen and this beautiful young lady here, we've all been given an open book test. And so the information is here. And how do you fail an open book test? You don't open the book. And I believe Amarillo is willing and able and ready for you as a voting conscience of the constituents that chose to place you here for leadership purposes, to make the ultimate decision to grow Amarillo and to make it become a better environment in which not only we who are aging have to live, but for future generations to come. A lot of these gentlemen don't know this, but out of a field of maybe 11 candidates for mayor, one man won with over 70% of the vote. And if that's not the conscience of people who want to see positive leadership and change for the betterment of growth and economically developing things in Amarillo, then I don't know what else you do, because majority still rules. You've got people sitting here who won these commission seats with over 80% of the constituents' votes here in Potter and Randall County. And I'm standing here to tell you that I grew up in this community and I did not come from a silver spoon experience. But I'm ready to enjoy the benefits of being an adult in a community where leadership can be trusted to do the right thing. And I encourage you all to trust that. I hang out sometimes over in the Hotel Crescent Court downtown. And I've never been more enamored to hear somebody say this, and I'm kind of a crybaby here. But I watched the Caroline Hunt at a Rosewood property make it possible for a Dallas Black Dance Theater to thrive. I watch people who have more resources than God go to the lowest economically developing communities all over the state of Texas and make it possible. I am not little bunny foo-foo hopping through the forest. I have lived in America, and most importantly in the state of Texas, and very grateful to be in Amarillo. And I'm going to ask you to prayerfully consider taking all of this homework and opening the book and passing the test and letting democracy rule from the day they installed you and you took a God-fearing oath to represent the people of Potter and Randall County. And so in God we trust this commission to make the right decision.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Please come up.
Kathy Allman. Well, we still live in a country where we can have opposing views, so I know some of us have been criticized when we question your plans, that we don't have any vision or we don't have any faith. And I feel like we do. We just like to temper it with some realism in this economy that we live in today. And I know the commissioners in the past, and I'm sure y'all now, are doing an excellent job of keeping our bond rating up there. I know you announced several sessions ago that we are, rated very well up there on the scale of bonds, and I just want us to keep there. And so there are some of us who are concerned. I wasn't one that called Ellen, but I would have been, that said, yes, downtown the convention hotel and improve the civic center. Those two things in the first phase. And then you can have most of those events that you're going to have at this MPB. You wouldn't have the baseball stadium, but we still have a stadium that we can use. In fact, I'm going tonight if we get out on time to go there. But I feel like we've got to be careful with our finances and continue to be. I think the council has been in the past, and I hope you continue to be. One of the things that really bothers me, and I know it's been passed over and said this isn't a new program, but the EB5, it looks like you're accounting on that to be about 50% of the shortfall. And I'm highly against the city participating in a program where people buy their way into our country. I mean, it depends on if you've got $500,000 to plunk down, then you're going to get at the front of the line instead of somebody who maybe has waited to become an immigrant to our country. I don't think that's right. And I know last night it was said, well, technically the city is not making the arrangements or whatever, but that's just semantics. If we participate in it, then we participate in it. And when we're talking about half of the shortfall being funded by people that are buying their way in to be citizens, I don't think it's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Altman, I would tell you that I was privileged to be able to present in the bonding issuance last time when we presented about Mesa. We actually previewed this to those bonding agents. They were curious about what our future was. I can tell you they were excited. And they followed that with upgrading us at the same time downgrading the federal government. I think that they are scrutinizing us very carefully. And I would tell you we will continue to scrutinize our efforts to achieve what you're talking about. I would tell you that I am pleased that with the vetting that's going to be done of this money that comes from foreign lands, I'd much rather see money come here than all our money go over there. Yeah. I'm happy to see that come here. I'm happy to see investment come to the United States, believing in our country and believing in our ability to grow that money. And these people could have picked a project that's 5 years, but because we're using new market tax credits, they're committing to 7 years because they believe in this hotel. And they have their choice, and they're taking a fraction of what they could earn on the open market. So they're investing in our country, and I'd encourage more people to invest in our country, and we'll leave it to the Immigration and Naturalization to put them to 30 lists to check their backgrounds. But I would tell you that if people have said, will they move to Amarillo? If they talk to me, I'll ask them to move here. If they've got $8 million of net worth, I want them to come here and start another business. So that's how I feel.
I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying that, should $8 million of net worth be able to buy your way in? That's my problem with it. I don't have a question with it. They wouldn't be vetted or so on.
There are going to be good immigrants that come here. It's not an illegal immigration. They will go through vetting, and they will come to this country. Is how we've grown this country. And I can't deny these people when they come with a good investment and a good heart and are tested and want to see our city grow. So I encourage them to come here. I'm not backing away from that one bit. We looked at EB5 for a lot of things, but I will tell you their nationality and their background, we leave to the federal government. And I don't think we have the ability to clear that, but we have the confidence that they're doing the job and we'll get the right monies here. And I hope they come and move here, start another business with some of the rest of that money they've got. I'd rather do that than send it to Asia or Japan or somewhere else.
I have a friend whose son-in-law has been trying to get here from Ireland for several years, and they spent lots of money, lots of time trying to work through the system. they don't have that many $1 million to contribute.
Understand. Thank you for your questions. Anyone else? Yes, sir. If you state your name and address, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Philip Petty. I live at 6804 Daniel Drive. Thank you for your time. Just like, if you would please be patient with me, I'm kind of timid, not so bold, but I do have some comments that I hope the commission and the audience will consider. As we all know, we're in bad economic times, and the gentleman at Wallace Pajali keep claiming that this isn't going to be paid for by the public, but somehow we're going to reap all the benefits. It's going to be owned by the city. $80 million has to come from somewhere, and ticket prices and parking and all this other stuff. This has to happen after it's built. That money's got to come from somewhere to start with, and I see that as coming from the Amarillo public in the form of taxes and other things.
May I extend your time and try and answer that?
I'm sorry, sir?
May I extend your time and try and answer that question?
Absolutely.
It is not backed by the full faith and guarantee of the city government. It is a transaction Wallace Pajali's arranged with Civitas. They will fund this. We're not on the hook for that money. They are saying that the revenue streams that they have scrutinized and they've looked at will pay this back. And the fact is they're doing it with the idea they'll make money on these projects. So we have scrutinized very carefully the same question you're asking about. We have been very concerned about that. And I think all of us would agree that there is no, there can't force our city government to pay this. Okay, if there's a default or there's a problem. Would you agree, Mr. City Manager?
I would. I might try to draw a couple of boxes. The funding, capital funding for the hotel project is private capital. The city is not putting capital up for that. Now certainly the city is responsible for the basic infrastructure of the streets, just as we would any developer. The prime funding source for the parking structure and for the multipurpose event venue is a revenue bond. And the revenue bond is backed by the city's hotel occupancy tax. That is the only fallback to that. However, the proposal that's been brought forward for us to consider puts in place numerous revenue streams generated by these functions and by some of these changes at the Civic Center to cover that. So, Mayor, I hope that helps. But that's in a very simplified version of the detail of the project, how the two sets are being accomplished. The loan that I think has been the topic of conversation, the EB5 funding through Civitas, that is a private financial arrangement between Wallace Pajali and the borrower, and Civitas as what amounts to an investment banker, just as if funding were coming from Bank of the Northern Hemisphere or whomever. I'm making names up as I go. Joe, David, would you agree that that's a nutshell description to kind of draw those two boxes?
So a large portion of that $80 million will be paid back by people that stay at that hotel.
Sir, may I respond to that?
Certainly.
I believe that this is based on the premise that there will be business coming to this multipurpose event venue at this hotel, which we have no guarantee of. And in fact, we have many other more popular tourist cities like Seattle, Washington, which I just came from, and Las Vegas and Miami. They're suffering. They have several more venues and reasons for people to come and visit, but businesses are still closing in their towns despite all of the efforts they're making.
Certainly was a question we had, but we felt like the growth incrementally would work because, for instance, we have the example of Oklahoma City. They passed a possible tax pulling off of their sales tax, which we can't do, and they said $393 million can be spent on downtown. $393 million, if we collect it, can be spent. Well, you've seen what's happened, I hope, over there, a close neighbor. And they have followed that with $300 billion, with a B, private investment to piggyback that $393 million that's been put into downtown. There's an article on the web, if you look that up, from Oklahoma City that will explain that. And certainly we aren't funding it the same way, but we are funding it, I think, in a more conservative way. And should Armageddon happen, the city is not going to lose in this.
Okay, well, a lot of examples have been made, like Lincoln, Nebraska, and Sugar Land, Texas. I think very important. I think a very important part of the city that should be considered is that we have I-40 running right through our town.
Certainly.
And it's very clear that all the business is on the west side of town as truckers and tourists pass through Amarillo on their way to some other destination. Yes, downtown was once a very popular venue, but now I think that's moved to I-40, as I know several people have articulated that to me.
Well, we don't want to let declining neighborhoods continue to decline. I have made a personal commitment that I want to see that effort that we start downtown continue in other declining neighborhoods of the city, because if not, we simply turn our back on those places and walk away. We aren't going to plow them under. There's people living there. There's people that we can enhance their experience by developing those places rather than turning our back. And I, for one, will not turn my back on declining neighborhoods with no ability to improve them. Do you know that in San Jacinto, in less than 5 years ago, we actually dug up a wooden water pipe? A wooden water pipe. We have to redevelop areas that are diminishing. We can't turn our back. I can't in good conscience look at those and say we're just going to move to southwest Amarillo. We also will, we know this from the 5-year plan, we will lower our costs to this city because we already have police and fire coverage downtown. We're already paying for that. If we keep expanding exclusively outside and don't rebuild older parts, we pick up more expenses. And so I think we're being good stewards and we're rebuilding declining neighborhoods. And I think we have to have a vision for that. And I hope that's what people will see that we're proceeding towards.
Well, sir, I'm sure you can agree that replacing water piping is entirely different from building a baseball park in downtown Amarillo.
Well, they're related, because if we don't do something that will generate sales tax, we have no place left to go except on the backs of homeowners, and that's what I don't wish to do.
We could just leave it to private investors to open their own businesses. We could lower regulations in the city. I know things such as signage is very difficult here in Amarillo.
Certainly, but we have tried that for 20 or 30 years.
I don't think we have, sir. I think we've placed more burdens on the business owners.
Well, I would agree that we need to look at some things that can become burdens on business owners, but the best thing we can do to free up business owners to operate and homeowners is to not burden them with more taxes. And so we get that from outside sources who want to spend their money here. You know, we could debate that, but certainly you have your views and I have mine.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your questions. Any other questions or comments from the audience?
First off, Mr. Mayor, Brian, I've been here most of my life. I know most of y'all very well. I'm very disappointed in all of you. I'm a cigar smoker, and I have yet to be invited to the smoke-filled back room to talk about this. And I've been to several meetings. I don't understand what's going on. What I wanted to say was, I'm a member of the world's largest service organization, Lions, and we just had our international convention in Seattle, Washington. Some 10,000 to 1 million Lions. I get the numbers confused. Just showed up, and they had a great time. I didn't go. But they have another function called USA Canada Forum. It's typically attended by about 5,000 people, and they skip those venues, Seattle, the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, the Houston, that are large enough to host the international convention. And they go to places like Winnipeg, Canada. They go to places like Toronto, Ohio. They would come to places like Amarillo, Texas, and believe me, I've tried. I've worked with our Tourist and Visitors Bureau to get them here, and we're the right size. We just don't have the right facilities. So I applaud you in that, and I want to know when the hotel is going to open, because they were booking this USA Canada Forum 5 years out. So this year?
September 13th.
Okay. So now that we have the date, we can shoot for it. And
Brian, we're going to lose total control if we don't keep you addressing us. And I would refer you to the Convention and Visitors Bureau because they'll be happy to make some.
Well, I just want to say I think y'all are doing a great job, and
Thank you.
it's been very public in how you've gone about this, contrary to popular rumor and belief.
We have gotten overwhelming support from comments, and I appreciate it. But there also needs to be scrutiny. It needs to continue so we do the right thing for this community. We don't have all the answers. We are trying to get them, and we will process that. But I have enough answers to know exactly how I feel right now and how good I feel about this project going forward. So any other questions or comments from you guys? Sir, if you can give your name and your address.
Absolutely. My name is David Odell. I'm the General Director of Amarillo Opera. We do business on Van Buren Street. I'm sad to say that I'm a Canyon resident, but I'm still a very big active part of the community, I hope. I look forward to sitting down with the developers and the team to talk about the viability of the arts and the plan. I'd like to say that over 30 years in the business of opera and performing arts, I've probably lived in 7 major metropolitan cities. Most of those are probably the biggest progressive towns in the United States. I would consider, San Francisco, New York, Santa Fe, Research Triangle Park area, where I sat down with Jim Goodman in 1997 to talk about the development of the American Tobacco Campus. That project, took 13 years to fully develop. It was driven by by Jim Goodman owning the American Tobacco Campus. So that was the stimulus that basically led that program. Recently, I moved directly from Madison, Wisconsin, where they did a similar project. There are
in Wisconsin,
Madison, Wisconsin, yeah, state capital, very vibrant downtown already. A major push about 2004 to revitalize downtown Madison, which was already pretty vital. I am totally in support of all of the project, but I do want to raise a little flag now and then. Downtown Madison now has hundreds of very expensive condominiums that are sitting empty, and the sale of the existing residents in downtown Madison have moved from very expensive homes in the surrounding community. So in Madison, Wisconsin, I'm not sure, this all came down, about 2008. I'm not sure that Madison, Wisconsin saw a net gain in the revitalization efforts of downtown. Still, I'm very supportive of this.
We're getting close to the end of your time.
I know. And I'm most concerned, though, about the viability of the arts in both of these communities. I know that the opera companies in both of the communities have had to cancel performances. Local arts organizations. The new venues have drawn, I would say, major, if I can have just 10 seconds more. They've drawn major acts from outside of the community, but I'm not sure that they've really done anything for the local arts community. So I look forward to continuing the discussion. I will say, as far as transparency, though, the resident companies of the Globe News Centers meet on a regular basis, as recently as the 19th of last month. And as far as I knew, this was the first time I saw a funding plan. And
the funding plan has been taking shape, and it's at the final stages. But I would ask you a question about Madison. Isn't that where they had the riots and their $12 million worth of repair work because of the public policy the state had?
Absolutely.
That was not very efficient.
It was.
Our ratings are much better than
I'm with you on
that.
this.
Pursuit of this project is going to be much more contained and much more metered than
I am with you 100%.
So I will tell you that I don't like a direct comparison with Madison, Wisconsin in this meeting.
I'm warning you, these are the most progressive,
But I will tell you,
areas in
I'm excited that you're going to have a new market to sell the opera to. I think that young lady significantly said the story last night. She said, I have performed at the opera. We heard other people that have been involved with it, Keith Grays and others. We have to look for new ways to draw this market together and bind our community and build these things so we don't hurt any of the arts. And we are committed to that. But we also know this. We know that the rates, it's one of your concerns, the rates have not been raised at the Civic Center. They've been artificially low. We are raising it 20%, and I'm proudly doing that because I think we have something to sell. And we'll do it again next year, 20%. But the fact is that we have something to sell. And we have a vibrant way. Think about this. Where would you be, right, as an arts group, had $31 million not been donated magnanimously from this community? If you were paying off that debt, what would your rent be with the opera?
I would say
it would be gone.
I would say, with all due respect, though, that for 4 years, that building project sucked arts money out of the community.
Oh, but look at what we've got. And I went through that when I was first on the commission because I was part of the process that helped decide to spend that last bit, so we'd stop this continued effort. And I will tell you that I would defend that decision, and I would defend that we have held the arts. The community has held the arts in their hand, and they will continue to. And this community will support it, and the growing community that will retain here of young people is your new audience.
And I would actually favor probably more an increase in our rent than the burden of an additional 10% ticket fee to my constituency when I've already lowered rates in order to draw more people downtown. And so my concern is this is a very delicate balancing act. And this is a very special community that is invested in community, which was the thing that brought me to this community. You know, the fact that Amarillo Opera was committed to building community.
We hope it keeps you here.
All community.
One of the things that was mentioned was the parking, and I know there's concern from some people, but the Globe News Center will retain the operation of the lot to the north, and whatever you do with that is fine. I mean, that's not going to change. Plus, I think there's a lot of people that will be excited to have the extra activity of the hotel and walkway and the garage. This will not be a parking garage like anybody's ever seen in Amarillo, Texas before. Retail spots, exciting things to do. Your patrons, when they get out of the opera, will have 10 more things to do than they have today. 15, 20 more things. I think it's an exciting time for us all to grow.
Probably not at 11:30 at night.
Well, you never know.
I hope. Good. Thanks.
Things before too, though.
Yeah.
Obviously, things before the performance, you'll be. Maybe someday they'll have sort of like the symphony did out at the Discovery Center. Maybe someday you'll have opera in the ballpark. What do you know?
Casey at the band.
Lots of new and stuff.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good afternoon. My name is Susan White, and I'm the Executive Director for the Amarillo Symphony. My address is 1604 Liberty Street. First of all, I want to say that it's great as an individual to see the kind of downtown development that we have. Certainly, it capitalizes on the dream of those many donors that invested in the Globe News Center, and I think many of them would see this as a catalyst. But the Globe News Center has really triggered some of what we're seeing. What I want us to be honest about is there are some direct and indirect expenses for those arts organizations, and especially during those 2 years of construction as we're trying to find ways to adapt for our patrons. So I hope as we're having these conversations that we can find some ways to make it a little more tangible or possible for all of us. Specifically as we look at that rent increase, it'd be much easier for us to pallet smaller incremental changes over the years. I know as I manage our budget, a 20% change after nothing over 10 years, it'd be much easier to see that 3 to 5% increase annually. But specifically, you guys have had the opportunity to look at this funding model for 3 months. We've had to see what's going on for the past 6 days, so it's all very new to us. There's not a lot of clarity, and because we are the end users who are going to be directly impacted, I would hope that we can have some opportunities for further conversation that benefit everyone, because ultimately downtown development will help us. It's just that initial 2-year gap. How do we get through it? So.
It's getting through that. A very important question. I will tell you that Commissioner Green and I had talked about earlier privately that we want to have meetings with y'all and talk about what can be done. And certainly that's true with the opera, it's true with everybody that uses the Vote News Center. Certainly you have contracts that will be honored. I think that's correct, Mr. City Manager?
Yes.
Contracts will be honored that are out there, but we're projecting what this will do. I think it's a great opportunity, and certainly there's challenges we'll have to work through. Construction will be a very tentative time.
It will be. So we're just asking for a place at the table.
We certainly will include that, and hopefully we could meet with you possibly next week.
Anytime would be great.
We're doing budget all this week. They got strapped to those tables in there. But next week, we'd certainly like to sit down with the groups as a whole or you individually.
That would be delightful.
We'd love to have you.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. H.R. Kelly. Live in Park County. I'm a Park County Commissioner. And I wanted to reassure Wallace Pajali and your organization, your team, that as a commissioner, I do have a different attitude as far as what this group is trying to do. There are differences of opinions among the commissioners, and I just wanted to let them know that I appreciate all that they've done and what they're going to do, what this commission has done, and you will have my continued support. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments?
I'm Jimmy Presley Hammonds. I live at 1514 South Pierce. Last but not least. Well, first of all, no mortal men own more resources than God. God owns it all, including the weather. I'll be glad when He gives us more rain. I'm wondering how many gallons of water is this thing going to take? Talk about watch every drop. It's going to take a lot of water to make a lot of concrete for these 3 projects. We already got a ball field. I got a list here. We already, places that we can have events at, in which we have had events at is Aztec Center outside town, Dick Bivens Football Stadium. When the Reverend Graham came here, the Dillard's Ball Field, Glow News Event Center, downtown Polk Street, all the larger churches. We've had them on the courthouse square for quite a few years. I mean, it's not like we don't have no place to have events at, you know. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Mr. Reynolds. Appreciate it. Any other comments? If not, this concludes the regularly scheduled agenda for the Amarillo City Commission. It's however customary at this time to allow citizens of the community on matters pertaining to city policy, programs, or services to speak to the commission. And the floor is now open for that comment. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I appreciate your time. My name is Shannon Williams, 4615 Matador. I've spoke in the past. We've been coming for the last several weeks in regards to the girls' fast pitch softball fields. I don't want to reiterate everything in the interest of time. Each week I'll give you a little bit more, I think. I'm excited to be speaking today because a lot of the terms I threw out last week have been thrown out today, bringing outside money to Amarillo, the tournaments, regional hub. Mr. Berry, thank you for the plug on girls' fast pitch softball. That's great. What I want to talk about today is I talked about the facilities that were built for the boys in '02 that, and then when the girls did not have regulation fields, we had a small Band-Aid put on, which was giving us the 2 fields at Thompson Park. And what they did is they took 2 full-size slow pitch softball fields, cut down the fence, moved it in, and called it good. Said, here you go, girls. Here's your 2 fields. What I'd like to do real quick is just do a comparison between what was given to the boys, what's been built for the boys, and what the girls have. Mr. Shaw, this is not advancing. Okay, if you'd back up real quick. I'm sorry, the previous slide. This is Rick Klein. This is the baseball field built for the boys. Next slide. This is coming into Thompson Park. Go ahead. This is the fire lanes and handicap parking at Rick Klein and landscaping. This is same thing at Thompson. I'm going to go through these pretty quick. I'm going to give hard copies to the commission. This coming into Rick Klein is one of 4 practice backstops for when tournaments are there and tournament teams can sit out there and practice. They're also available to rent for practices. This is coming into Rick Klein Park. Next slide. This is what the girls got. This is the practice area that the girls utilize. This is the entranceway. This is a Rick Klein facility, a facility that was supposed to be made for for the boys baseball and girls softball. This is our entrance. Again, I know that some of these are redundant, but go ahead. Next two slides, these are a couple of the cement and bronze statues, both boys, of course, you know. This is Thompson Park. We can't even get the sidewalks and the stairs fixed. Next slide. Going down to our facility. This is the restroom facility at Rick Klein. This is the unisex facilities at Thompson. This is open to the public. This is what every person that roams through Thompson Park gets to use. This is the inside of Rick Klein's restroom facilities. This is Thompson. If you'll notice in this picture, you won't see soap, you won't see paper towels, you won't see a dryer. This was a great day, there's toilet paper. Fabulous day. This is the number of stalls at Rick Klein. Oh, same picture, one stall. Bathroom facilities at Rick Klein with a diaper stand and paper towels. Again, not available for our girls. Now, I do want to be fair, they did just recently build this. This is away from our facility down 100 yards or so. It does have separate facilities, one stall, still no paper towels, still. We do get soap, so that's a good thing.
Sir, if you could wrap it up, I'd appreciate it.
Sir. We're to the tail end of the slides here. Landscaping. Again, this is the facilities that our girls were given as a Band-Aid. This is practice and warm-up facilities that are dedicated at Rick Klein for the boys to warm up in a safe environment. We have to warm up amongst our fans where the fans are seating. The playground at Rick Klein, it's free. If you got $14.95, you can go to Thompson Park, you can go to Wonderland. Overflow seating. This is our overflow seating cement slab. Should be one more. Again, this was the Band-Aid that was given to the girls. And I used the word that I hate to use last time I spoke, and that was discrimination. I said it last time, we're bordering on discriminating against these young ladies. I think it's evident. Drive out to Rick Klein, drive out and look at the facilities that they've been afforded to the boys. In those pictures you didn't notice, there were no softballs in the Rick Klein facility. They're all baseballs. There's boy statues. I don't know that there was ever an intent. There is one field that is skinned out there, in fairness. That the girls have to ask you to conclude. Okay. Again, we're just simply asking, in 2010, in the comprehensive plan, it was put on there in 5.19 of the city's comprehensive plan.
We're going to ask you to.
Okay. We'd like to move to budget.
This. Thank you very much. Okay. Is there any other comments from the audience?
My name is Bob Medina. I'm the president of the organization that utilizes those two fields. First off, I want to thank you guys for allowing us to speak. Okay. What I want to emphasize is, the disparity of the fields and facilities that are very readily apparent here. Okay. And at the last commissioners meeting, and I think you guys have noticed that we've been a presence here for the past few meetings. You as commissioners and as city were very prudent in refinancing some of the bonds that came through, and I think it was stated that you saved, I think it was like $475,000 when you refinance these bonds. What I would like to do is propose, or maybe even sit down with you guys to see if we can utilize that money, because it is money that was budgeted to be spent, but now is back in the general fund in order to start this process. And that's all I really have to say.
Commissioner Hughes would like to comment.
I'd like to tell you, sir, there's nothing more that any of us would like to do than be able to build a Rick Klein kind of facility for girls. But what I need you to understand is the capital improvement budgets that we have are limited, because we have the second lowest tax rate in the state for ad valorem taxes. There are lists 30 deep of projects that we have that we need to do. And each year, we feel blessed if we can do one or two, maybe on a good year 3. and we're working our way down the list.
I understand that.
And we have to be limited in, we have people who've been working and developing plans like you're doing for a decade.
Right.
And you can imagine how it would be if we would pull everybody else's project down the list and put yours at the top.
Okay. Now, I'm going to reference the comprehensive plan again. Okay. He referenced it earlier. We were jumping for joy when we were included on this list. You know, we did it the proper way. This is not a new issue. You know, I know I've had, representatives of our organization speak with you. I personally have spoken with Mr. Sims. I met with the previous city manager and Mayor McCart on this issue. This is the 4th year that I've made some type of presentation, and according to the proposed budget that I see was posted on the website today, it's not on there again, okay? And on top of that, unless it's a typo, it says soccer complex, $1.1 million total project money. It says here there's I guess a certificate of obligation bond project money of $305,000 and city funding of $769,000, okay? Now I'll reference this comprehensive plan again. Listed in the near term, 0 to 4 years, youth girls softball complex, okay? That's what we were jumping up for joy when we finally did it, okay? Long term, 5 to 10 years, soccer complex, okay? So somewhere along the line, they jumped us.
May I suggest this? 4 weeks ago was the first time I had heard of this, and we're new at this, okay? But I would like to ask you if we could meet, and maybe Mr. City Manager, and maybe have the Parks Department, so we can look at this list that Ryan refers to, because it is there, and talk about this issue you just bring to us now, about where this jumped and where it didn't. I can't tell you.
I'm not sure myself either.
Well, let's sit down and try and talk it through, because we want to progress with this. We don't want you to feel that we're sliding you or saying that you don't have a valid project, but we have to know what other things have been committed to, what priorities have been set, and what funds are available, as you would in your family.
Right.
So I would ask you if in the next 2 weeks that we might sit down and talk with you and talk about what this is and how it compares to other things. So you can have a real understanding of what we're looking at, and we can have a real understanding of what you're looking at. May we do that?
Yeah, we can certainly meet.
And do you have a pencil handy?
Not with me, but,
Okay. I'll give you my card, and if you'll call me, I've got my cell number on there. We'll sit down and have a meeting. And
we've had continued communication with Rod Tweed and Larry Offerdahl of the city, the Parks Department, but this totally surprised me on the proposed budget. And, Commissioner Eads talked about a plan, and,
yes.
We had finally gotten on a plan, and now this proposed budget.
You have a valid question I don't have an answer to, but I refer it to staff. And really, during this public comment, we can make statements of fact. I don't have the facts to deal with it. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to schedule a meeting with you and sit down and try and work through a solution that you find plausible and we find plausible. Is that fair enough?
We can certainly sit down.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Are there any other comments? Okay. If not, that concludes the meeting, and I'll ask for a motion for adjournment. Hearing none, we're adjourned.